All right. I just thought that I would do a quick playthrough of Axis Zero, see how far I can get, and chat about some of the things that are new, some things that I'm working on, and plans going forward. Because there's a lot, and I figure it'll be easier to just do it than it would be to get footage and then record some stuff. So here we go. So this is the current version. I've added some quality of life things. Oh, I'm getting destroyed. I've added some quality of life things in general. The first that you may have noticed, is that when the grav switch goes off, or the grav stabilizer, there's now, if you look at the edge of the screen, boop and a boop. There's a little bit of a border that shows up around the screen. Oh, I'm going to get destroyed. That'll indicate when it's happening. This is helpful for a couple of reasons. First of all, you'll be able to tell. I know it's just feedback in general when you do something is important in games. So to be able to say, okay, yep, I definitely clicked the button. I know it happened. We're good. That's one thing. And the other side of that being it's easier to watch. So watching back some of my old footage, I realized, this is hard to watch. You can't really tell when gravity's switching, and it's just getting confusing to anyone watching. So this makes it easier to watch. You can now kind of tell what's going on and when the gravity switch happens. When it's the gravity switch or the stabilizer, as you can see when you're holding the stabilizer, it stays blue on the border. And when you hit the switch, it just kind of clicks once. So that it just makes life easier in general. Where am I going? Glass room. Completely category this. So that's one thing. The other, I don't know that there is any footage out yet of Wave 5. So let's go ahead and just get to Wave 5. I've added some new units, some new enemies. This one here is one of my favorites. And I think it needs a tweak, and I plan on doing so. But basically, it is the only... It shoots the projectile, and it's the only thing other than your direct input that will change your gravity. If you get hit by that projectile, it makes your gravity... Woo! Okay, I made it to wave 5. It makes your gravity backwards. So again, the rule that I have in general... in general with the gravity switching mechanic is that the only way that gravity can switch is a way that does not turn the camera. And I say that because we don't want to cause a lot of motion sickness. The thing that I'm learning about motion sickness in general, this boss is flying all over the place. The thing that I'm learning about motion sickness in general is that it usually comes from the brain not understanding the motion, not necessarily that a motion is happening. So like if I'm doing this, well, I'm making it happen. I'm doing it. I'm looking up, looking down, left, right. Like it's easy to me. And even when I change gravity, surprisingly enough, my brain sort of does the math, and I can keep track of it. But when you're doing the gravity switch mechanic, if you do something that makes the camera rotate, it's going to automatically, your brain is going to say, I didn't do that movement. I didn't do that motion. I don't know why that's happening. And it'll cause motion sickness. So the only ways that gravity can switch are to be forward, anywhere from forward to backward on a downward arc. That is the absolute weirdest way to say it. So it switches me backwards. I can use E to switch it down, and I can use middle mouse button to switch it forward, because those are the three directions in which when I hit them, the camera doesn't move, but gravity can. Because any of those I'd be looking either up or down or forward. So I'd always be looking forward, but gravity would either be in front of me or behind me. And gravity can't be up because there's no way for someone to logically fall up. So I'm realizing that this is going to be a little bit of a difficult sort of showcase because, well, let me let me go back a bit. So when I was first developing it and stuff, I came to the realization relatively early on that I was like, man, this is really easy, you know? Like I feel like I need to make this more difficult because it's just I can just fly through this. I got to like wave 30 or something and was not even trying. And I'm just like, man, if anybody plays this and gets through only that much, they're going to be like, okay, I play this once and I don't care anymore. And then I had some friends play it and they're barely even making it to the boss on wave 5, let alone beating it. And so I came to the realization that, well, yeah, of course I'm pretty okay at it. I've been sitting with this for a few months now, and play testing it and doing things with it. So quite clearly, it's going to be easy for me. So I'm realizing this showcase is going to be difficult because I know what to expect from the boss and from these other special units, and how to avoid getting hit by them. So it might just be a few waves in that we actually get some solid do some stuff footage, but it gives me a chance to talk future, because I think that's the question I get from any of my buddies who have played this game. I get one of two responses. The first of which being that using the gravity mechanic is the most satisfying part, which is what I wanted. The goal of this from the beginning was to create this gravity mechanic that makes you say, hey, I've got control of this world, and make it something that the player wants to do. So it seems like that has been successful. Love that. And the second one being that they want to do more than this. What I'm building right now is sort of a demo of what this gravity mechanic can do, and what a player could do if given these tools. And so clearly this is not the end of Axis Zero. This is the beginning of Axis Zero, and there are plans for the future, so let's discuss them. As anyone could probably guess, with a first-person shooter like this, the plan is to make it multiplayer. And I personally have a big focus on co-op. No, that was stupid. A big focus on co-op in general. I much prefer when I can group up with my friends and play together and share a combined goal, or work together with a shared goal, as opposed to get together and see which one is better than the other. Is there room for that? Of course. I that's also a lot of fun. But one of my favorite things to do, I guess one of my inspirations for developing games in general, is that's another wave, multiple of 5. Where is the door out? We got to go find the other boss. One of my inspirations in general for making games is I want to make games that I can play with my wife, who is not necessarily like a hardcore gamer. She's not incompetent when it comes to games, but she's not like a hardcore gamer. She's got things to do with her day. Those are there are other things that are more important to her than playing video games, but she likes playing with me, and I like when she and I get to share those shared goals. So my focus, almost got hit by that. My focus with creating games is how can I make a game that will scratch my competitive itch while allowing her to also enjoy the ride. And I take that step further. What about I've got some friends who are really hardcore gamers. I'm not that hardcore of a competitive gamer. I just like competition. But I've got some buddies who really are. How can I make a game that they want to play and satisfies them at their core, while my wife wants to play it, and that is just really important to me. So when I'm making these PvP or multiplayer in general, I should say, when I'm making these multiplayer formats for Axis Zero, I'm absolutely taking into consideration the fact that there is room for all of it. It's a first-person shooter. So talking about the basics, right? So the plan is to have a PvP deathmatch, right? The goal is there are teams of however many, and you go in, you see who can get the most kills. It's obvious, and it's easy to do. So that is clearly step one, is to get that sort of thing done. And that makes it easy to test as well. I can grab, me and a couple of buddies, call it a free-for-all, right? It doesn't have to be team-based. We can get together and we can play. We can do stuff. We can test out new weapons. We can test out new equipment. We can learn strategies. We can test out new maps and try those things out. It just makes it a lot easier to deal with from the get-go. And so that's one. I thought about a game mode. Oops, bad. Oops. Hold on. I thought about a game mode that's more of a search and destroy, but it's maybe a one versus many, maybe a few versus many, or maybe it is even where there's a timer and one person or one team has the ability to get away a little better, maybe some equipment It's a little more focused on hiding or escaping, whatever. And perhaps in a map that's got a lot going on. So a lot of nooks and crannies, places where people can hide. And their job is basically stay alive for insert amount of timer here, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever the game would call for. And the other team is looking to beat them, get them, tag them, kill them. I think that's a fun one because I asked my wife one time, she used to play Halo with her brother, and I would say, why did you do that? Why would you want to do that? That doesn't sound like a thing you want to do. She said, and this was her response, no joke, I like the sword. So when it comes to the basic FPS skills, not everyone's into that, but that doesn't mean the competitive atmosphere that a first-person shooter game is not appealing to everyone. So being able to find game modes that allow for that is really important. And spoiler alert from that last one, yeah, there's probably going to be a series of melee weapons, and they're going to have to directly work with the gravity mechanic. Technically speaking, any sort of gun or projectile launching weapon that one would wield in a game like this could be used. Sorry, I just hit a glitch where now the border is staying. That's something I'm working on. It'll be more than fixed for the next version. But that you could use any sort of projectile launcher with the gravity mechanic and it works just fine because you're hiding in a specific place. For a melee weapon, hit by the green. The green's the one that switches your gravity. But for a melee weapon, it would require a little more, I don't know, forethought. Because just getting to somebody, they're all the same if you do that, right? It's like, okay, I have a sword. Whoa, I have a sword. I use the gravity mechanic to get close to somebody and I hit them with a sword. I've got a hammer. I use the gravity mechanic to get to somebody and I hit them with a hammer. I use you know what I mean? Like it's all the same. So to say that each of these melee weapons is going to directly interact with the gravity mechanic just makes it that much better, right? And I'm sure there'd be a basic such as, yes, you can just go over to somebody and hit them with the thing, but probably they'd have some special abilities. Maybe the hammer, this is the one that I was thinking of directly, the hammer most likely will hit harder and possibly deal more damage to its target the further you fall, the higher your velocity when it hits. Just makes sense to me. Heavy thing hits hard. That's the basic rule of velocity. So that's some of that. So that's a lot of the PvP stuff. Let's transition into some other things. Like I said, I prefer co-op modes, and one of the games that I played en masse with my buddy is Black Ops Zombies. So why couldn't there be a co-op survival mode with a different sort of enemy, not necessarily these boxes, but a different sort of enemy, and you're just surviving for waves. How long can you survive together? What sort of, combinations and teamwork things can you do to last as long as possible, and how many waves, how fast can you get there? It just opens up a lot of options for teamwork and cooperation and collaboration. These are the things that KOA really stands for, is, then I lose. But yeah, these are the things that the studio necessarily stands for, is being able to work together with your friends, have a good time with your friends, no matter what your goals are. Right? If you are the kind of person who likes to be more competitive with your friends, well, you should be able to play a competitive game with your friends. If you're someone who likes to collaborate with your friends, you should be able to do that. And so having those co-op modes, like a co-op survival, just seems relentlessly important to me. Now, here's the other one, and I want to address it first. One of the things that one of my buddies has been talking about as he's been testing is he sees in playing this game something akin to Portal. In that it's a puzzle game. You're presented with an obstacle course necessarily, and your goal is to find the way to get through it. And here's why I'm not going to do that. I feel like that's not the right attitude to have, but hear me out. The reason that I'm not going to create a puzzle mode is because this tool is as successful as it is because it is as unrestricted as it is. And I don't want to start adding restrictions such as you can only use it so many times, it only goes so many directions, if you touch a certain thing, then it sends you back. Like, I don't want to do things like that because it necessarily changes the mindset behind the tool itself. The tool itself is built to say anywhere in the world you want to go, you're allowed to go. So what does that mean for puzzles? If you were to make a puzzle with that concept in mind, you're essentially saying that the only way this puzzle works is if it's a speed-based thing. So you've got 2 buttons you have to hit. Get to one spot, get to the other spot. What is the best vantage point to do so? Which is fine, but that's not a puzzle at that point in time. It's a skill game. And so I came to the conclusion, odds are good, I'm not making a puzzle mode to this game, like Portal. But does that mean that that concept is incorrect? And the answer is no. So the other mode that I really want to work on and make is an obstacle course race. Imagine something similar to this, maybe a little thinner, more like corridors, and your job is to get to the other side as quickly as possible. Probably a race, maybe a time trial, maybe it's a solo thing. But with your friends, and you're working on the time trial. You're trying to get through it. You're trying to get through it as fast as possible. Beat your friends. It's a race. And if you touch a wall and you get this feedback, it sends you back to that first part of the segment that you're in. So I'm seeing long corridors that go in different directions and are filled with these sort of platforms, probably pretty handily, probably a lot of the platforms to make it more difficult to get through. You know, if you can just say, all right, let's get to the top of this. There's the goal. Okay, I'm getting there. And that's as fast as you can go to get there, right? If that's it, then it's not as much fun. But if it had all these obstacles in the middle and you've got to try and get your way through it, now that redirecting your gravity in the air concept, which is a bit of an advanced concept, becomes slightly more necessary, and it becomes a skill game and a race. That just sounds like way more fun. So that's my current roadmap. And the hope is that I can get this thing as funded as possible. I want to work with some publishers to make sure the word gets out as best as I can. And as soon as that go-ahead exists, we are going to get moving on this and get Axis Zero out. I want to get this thing tested as quickly as possible with people who are not just my friends. I love my friends. They want me to be happy. I want people who don't want me to be happy, who do want to play a good game, to tell me why they do or don't love this concept. So that's the goal, and thank you for listening.